Welcome to Digital Learning, an initiative of Directorate of Collegiate Education, Government of Karnataka. Learning from first generation school goers by Dr. R. Balasubramaniam is an essay prescribed for third semester BCom, Bengaluru North University. I am Nandana NG, Assistant Professor of English, GFGC, Bagepalli. In this session, in the previous session, we introduced ourselves to the lesson and the author. In this session, we shall concentrate on the other aspects of the lesson. Let us have a look at the contents of this session. The contents are as follows. First, learning objectives. The learning objectives tend to show the aims that a student can look forward of achieving at the end of this session. Session outcome. Where the objectives met, where the objectives truly realized through the course of the session is what comes out in session outcome. The most important part of this session is teaching difficult words. In every lesson, after the text, a glossary part is usually included. The glossary part is nothing but the most difficult words which a student might perceive to be slightly difficult to comprehend or understand. Such words are given and along with the meanings. So first we shall focus on such words in the lesson, so that once we know the meaning of such difficult words, we will understand the lesson much better. And then after teaching difficult words, we shall proceed towards the presentation of the lesson. Let us to have a cursory look at the lesson to understand the lesson much better in the next session. And finally, we shall have a multiple choice question session to assess ourselves. Learning objectives. What are the learning objectives of this session? The session intends to develop sensitivity towards social problems and concern towards society. In this lesson, particularly the societal problem of how tribals are alienated from the society, how the tribals are marginalized, how the tribal children are away from development and mainstream education is clearly depicted, and how the endeavor of the author along with a few like-minded people to start a school for the tribal children shows his concern towards society. So this lesson in particular will serve to the students as a role model, how if you have nobility in your thoughts, you can actually pursue it. It also has an objective to debate on the contemporary education system. The contemporary education system more or less places emphasis on a lot of bookish knowledge or knowledge that is gained by just attending classes and learning or memorizing through rote learning, and whatever is learnt is assessed in the end through the course of an exam or a test, wherein whatever memory just serves as a prerequisite there. But whatever you learn in the course of education usually doesn't come in handy later in life. So this also throws open the debate on the contemporary education system. It will also help to ascertain the importance of nurturing nature. Nature is the most important aspect of our life, the one which we have tended to neglect. Only if nature is alive, only if we have the capacity to nurture nature, we also as human beings can survive. This will also assimilate the value of human relationships. Through the course of the lesson, we get to see how human relationships are very important. Human relationships, we usually focus on only the family aspect, but we have to remember whatever relationships exist within the family, those are not the only relationships. Our relationship with our neighbors, with society at large, etc., that too is important. So through the course of this lesson, the objective of assimilating the value of human relationships also can be seen. So, session outcomes. At the end of the session, the students are able to enrich their cultural and literary sensibilities and also to foster cross-cultural understanding. In turn, it will also help the student to acquire the required maturity to critically analyze the importance of education and schooling by life. It will also help the student to live in harmony with nature and how nature is an integral part of mankind. In fact, we have to live in harmonious relationship with nature. But what is a human being doing now? We are trying to take over the world. In fact, we are trying to eradicate nature for our own personal agenda. So through the course of this lesson, we'll understand how it is always helpful to live in harmony with nature and the forest and respectfully offer what it respectfully accept what it offers. Whatever nature offers, we have to accept it with gratitude. But then we have tried to take over nature, and that is why we are also facing nature's fury in the form of natural disasters. The session, all in all, will also enhance vocabulary, word power, and also help to strengthen linguistic skills, which will further help the student. Teaching vocabulary, explanation of difficult words. The first word, tribe. Tribe refers to a group of people of the same race and with the same customs, language, religion, etc., living in a particular area and often having one leader known as chief, especially in developing countries. Tribal people or people who belong to a tribe. In Kannada, the word would be Adivasigalu. Next, makeshift. It means used temporarily for a particular purpose because the real thing is not available. Hamlet, a very small village. So, a village which is not as developed as a regular village, but in the basic form. In Kannada, I think the equivalent word is Kugrama, a very small village with basic facilities as such. Such a thing is known as hamlet. Semblance, appearance. For example, he did not have any semblance of decency. That is to say, he did not appear decent. Unbridled, uncontrolled. This word occurs in the very beginning part of the lesson, wherein the author says he began the school with unbridled enthusiasm, that is, uncontrolled enthusiasm. Let us continue to other words. Integrate. Integrate means to combine two or more things so that they work together, to combine with something else in this way. Mainstream, it means the people whose ideas and opinions are most accepted, and the people who are not accepted into mainstream, who are living on the fringes or on the margins, are known as the marginalized. Ethos, it refers to the moral ideas and attitudes that belong to a particular people, society, or person. Indigenous, belonging to a particular place rather than coming to it from somewhere else. Trickle, it means to flow or to make something flow, drop by drop. To look at some more words, insanity, it means madness. Humility, it refers to the quality of being humble. Bursting with, it's a phrase, it means to be very full of something, to be very full and almost breaking open. For example, if you use this phrase in a sentence, she was bursting with enthusiasm. It means to say she was so full of enthusiasm. Sambar, this actually is a Indian word. It is a South Indian common dish. It's actually a Kannada word. Sambar is a common South Indian dish which is lentil, that is bele, lentil based soupy preparation flavored with Indian spices and consumed with rice, usually by pouring over it. Usually in hotel this is commonly available, and most of the people prefer to have idli with sambar. Next, shortchanged. It means to be treated unfairly by withholding something of value. And then there is a mention of a tree. The tree is known as tare tree. In the bracket, the word that is given, Terminale bellerica, that is the botanical name of the tree. It is a large deciduous tree native to the Western Ghats of India. Now let us try to understand the lesson in a nutshell before we proceed to the contextual interpretation of the lesson. First, the author R.L. Balasubramaniam, along with a few like-minded people, had the idea of beginning a school. But then it's easier said than done. The beginning of the school happened in a hamlet called Brahmagiri in 1988, and they had to face a lot of logistic difficulties while trying to open the school. They say it is mentioned in the text that the school was first opened in a cowshed. Those were humble beginnings. So the beginning of the school happened in a hamlet named Brahmagiri in 1988. Convincing the tribals, going to the tribals, convincing that particular community to send their children to such a school was not an easy task. But yet, in spite of all their efforts, all they could get was 28 students for the first batch. So the first batch of the school had only 28 students, and years later it grew to 400 students in the school. But the beginning was very humble. The first batch of school had only 28 students. In this school, unlike the conventional education, more emphasis is given to schooling or learning by experience more than the bookish knowledge. And then there is one important aspect here. As the tribal people have agreed to send their children to school, that is just one thing done. Here, the task or the focus now shifts to the teachers. The teachers now have to make sure that they have to sustain the interest of the students in the school for the entire day. After the students come to school, they cannot just take the classes for 1 or 2 periods and say school is over and send the children back. The children have come all the way from the forest or faraway places to attend school, and so it is the duty of the teachers to make sure that they provide them with some meal. So comes the aspect of the arrangement of the midday meal. The midday meal was again an initiative by the author along with his friends there. The midday meal was decided upon, and all the students and the teachers participated in this. A simple menu was decided, and the menu was usually everyday ragi balls and sambar. So the midday meal was more like a school project where both the teachers and students participated with a lot of enthusiasm. A few decided the menu, a few students and teachers went in search of vegetables to prepare sambar, a few went in search of firewood to cook the sambar, and a few children molded the ragi flour into small balls. And then after all the midday meal was over, a few more students along with teachers also cleaned the campus. So the midday meal more or less became the focal point of the entire day. In fact, at one point the author says that the amount of time invested for the midday meal program was more than what they actually spent in the classroom, but yet they enjoyed the experience of interacting with the tribal children, as they also got to learn something in return. And through the course of the midday meal, there is this one student called Manju, who is a 7-year-old tribal boy. In one incident particularly, there are two primary incidents in this lesson. The first incident, Manju's responsibility and sincerity comes to the forefront. The author is so taken aback by Manju's responsibility at such a young age. He is hardly a 7-year-old boy who himself is a small child, but still the sincerity and the responsibility that the boy shows, the author is taken aback by it. In fact, he is moved to tears. And then there is one more incident where the task is given to the students to get the leaf from each tree, and at that point it is quite astonishing to know how Manju behaves and what is the knowledge that Manju has about the trees and forest. Both the incidents we shall be dealing with in the contextual interpretation in the next session in detail, but please do remember this lesson is an extract from the text I the Citizen. Only a part of it is given here, the beginnings of the school, and only two incidents, the midday school incident and the assignment of collecting leaves. Only these two incidents are given here just to throw light on the intelligence that the tribal children have without attending school. Let us try to recapitulate whatever we have learnt here. The beginning of the school in a hamlet named Brahmagiri in 1988. So please do remember, the school was established by L. Subramaniam in 1988 in a hamlet called Brahmagiri. In fact, the school started in a cowshed. The first batch of students were 28 in number. Manju is one of the students among them, and he is the one to whom both the incidents are related to. In the lesson, we see how it is schooling more than education. Education refers to just mere gathering of knowledge, while schooling refers to trying to experience it practically. There are two incidents here which portray the tribal children values and the vast knowledge of nature and forest, and in both the incidents Manju, the tribal boy, is the one who shows how, in spite of not coming to the regular conventional school, yet he has the maturity and the knowledge that a regular mainstream child of his age does not have. So, both the incidents portray the values the tribal children have naturally. It should not be at the cost of making the tribal children unlearn what they already know. So, this is the lesson that the author learns at the end of the lesson. He says, by trying to adapt the children to the mainstream education, we should not force them to forget whatever they have learned on their own by through their with the help of their parents or through the interaction of community. So education should not be at the cost of making the tribal children unlearn what they already know. Education should be continuing the learning process. You should not ask the children to forget whatever they have learned at their homes and say only whatever is taught in the classroom is important. No, whatever you learn anywhere is always of importance. Now let us have a small multiple choice question session. First question. The school had its beginning in a cowshed in a hamlet named Brahmagiri in dash. 1980, 1988, 1986, 1990. And the answer is option B. The school had its beginning in a cowshed in a hamlet named Brahmagiri in 1988. Second question. The first batch of the school had dash students. If you recollect properly, you will remember the number of students in the first batch: 28, 10, 30 or 50. And the correct answer is the first batch of the school had 28 students. The references used for this session are Thank you.